Hello, my dear students, and welcome all of you in your English class. I am Miss Kadam SN, your subject teacher from SPMM Junior College, Shardanagar. Students, in our previous video, we discussed some information regarding our first poem. And you know that the title of the poem is 2.1 Cherry Tree, composed by Ruskin Bond. Dear students, through this video, I want to discuss the remaining part of this poem with you. या व्हिडिओच्या माध्यमातून आपण चेरी ट्री या कवितेचा उर्वरित भाग अभ्यासणार आहोत. But dear students, before the discussion of remaining part of the poem, let us focus on the summary of previous stanzas that we discussed in part 1 video. Students, as you know that the beginning of the poem is focusing on the past action of the poet, and that action is placing cherry seed by the poet before 8 years because he wanted to have his own tree. Then poet watered that seed once and totally forgotten about it. की स्वतःचे चेरीचे झाड असावे म्हणून कवीने 8 वर्षांपूर्वी चेरीची बी लावली होती आणि त्या बीला एकदाच पाणी दिले आणि तो पूर्णतः त्याच्याविषयी विसरून गेला होता. In spite of poet's carelessness, that cherry tree had survived, and during summer in May month, poet noticed a small plant coming out of ground for its survival. की कवीचे कोणतेही लक्षण असताना देखील ते चेरीचे रोपटे स्वतःहून वाढायला लागले आणि मे महिन्यामध्ये कवीला ते रोप जमिनीच्या बाहेर आलेले आणि जगण्याचा प्रयत्न करत असताना दिसले होते. A tiny 5 months old sapling lost in the tall and wild grass. It was destroyed and damaged by goats, grass cutters and monsoon also. की त्या 5 महिन्यांच्या रोपट्याने विविध अडथळ्यांचा सामना केला. प्राणी, गवत कापणारे लोक आणि पावसामुळे त्या रोपट्याचे मोठे नुकसान झाले होते. But during next spring, the plant was having 3 shoots, struggling to survive by spreading its arms. की वसंत ऋतूमध्ये किंवा वसंत ऋतूचे आगमन होताच ते चेरीचे रोप पुन्हा वाढायला सुरुवात झाली होती. So students, just keep in mind all these things that we discussed in our previous lecture. Now let's focus on the remaining lines of the poem with the help of next slides. For light and air and sun, I could only wait as one who watched wandering while time and the rain made a miracle from green growing pen. It means that cherry plant was struggling for sunlight and air for its survival. की ते चेरीचे रोप हवा आणि सूर्यप्रकाश मिळवून जगण्याचा प्रयत्न करत होते. When the poet knew that the cherry plant was alive, the poet was so impatient to see that plant growing. But you know that he has to wait for some time because that plant was too young to grow during the seasons. की चेरीचे रोप जिवंत असल्याचे समजल्यावर कवीला त्या रोपट्याचे झाड बनण्याची उत्सुकता निर्माण झाली. परंतु कवीला प्रतीक्षा करावी लागणार होती कारण त्या रोपट्याचे झाड होण्यास अजून काही कालावधी लागणार होता. Then the poet thought it was a miracle, it was magic that the plant was alive and struggling and it was trying to grow by suffering a lot. की चेरीच्या रोपट्याचे जिवंत असणे आणि त्याचा जगण्यासाठी चाललेला संघर्ष म्हणजे कवीला एक चमत्कारच वाटतो. Students, in this way, the poet is focusing on the efforts of cherry plant for its survival. Now let's see the next lines. I went away next year, spent a season in Kashmir. After some days, the poet went away to live in Kashmir for some time. Then he again returned from Kashmir after spending some days over there. काही दिवसांकरता कवी काश्मीरमध्ये राहायला गेले आणि नंतर ते परत देखील आले होते. Came back thinner, rather poor, but richer by a cherry tree at my door. So he said that he became thinner and he also lost some of his money and became poor also. की काश्मीरवरून परत आल्यानंतर कवी थोडे अशक्त झाले होते आणि त्यांचे काही पैसेही संपले होते. But the poet was thrilled, means he was feeling excited and happy after watching a cherry tree and not a cherry plant in his garden. He thought that he became richer by having that cherry tree. की परंतु त्या चेरीच्या रोपट्याचे झाड बनलेले पाहून कवीला खूपच आनंद झाला आणि त्याला परत एकदा तो श्रीमंत झाल्याचे वाटायला लागले. Dear students, keep in mind about all these things and you should also try to plant and have your own tree just like the poet, and so try to be wealthy in your life. की वृक्ष लागवड आणि वृक्ष संवर्धन करून तुम्ही देखील तुमचे जीवन समृद्ध आणि संपन्न बनवायला शिका. Now students, let's see the next lines through next slide. 6 feet high, my own dark cherry, and I could scarcely believe it a berry. Ripened and dwelled in the sun, hung from a branch just one. So here the word scarcely, it means hardly. So now that cherry sapling converted into 6 feet high, means such a tall cherry tree. The poet felt so proud of his own cherry tree. की ते चेरीचे रोप आता 6 फूट उंचीच्या झाडामध्ये रूपांतरित झाले होते आणि त्यामुळे कवीला त्याचा खूपच गर्व वाटत होता. The poet hardly believed that there was actually a single ripe ruby red cherry hanging from a branch of poet's cherry tree. की त्या चेरीच्या झाडाला एक सुंदर असे चेरीचे परिपक्व आणि लालबुंद फळ आले होते, परंतु कवीचा त्या गोष्टीवरती विश्वासच बसत नव्हता. Actually the poet was so excited but little bit shocked also after watching that beautiful fruit on the tree. So students, here you can see that beautiful cherry fruit on your screen. So let's see what happened after this. And next year there were blossoms small, pink, fragile, quick to fall, at the merest breath, the sleepiest breeze. Blossom, it means flowers that bloom on trees. So here you can enjoy beautiful image of cherry blossom. Then next year there was a beautiful cherry blossom. The cherry tree had delicate pink colored flowers, but those flowers, they were so frail, means they were so delicate. If we went too close to them, then only with our breath or even the gentlest or slightest breeze would fall them from the tree. की पुढच्याच वर्षी त्या चेरीच्या झाडाला सुंदर बहर आला होता आणि त्याची फुले अतिशय सुंदर, नाजूक आणि गुलाबी रंगाची होती. जर आपण त्या फुलाजवळ जाऊन नुसता श्वास घेतला किंवा वाऱ्याची हलकी झुळूक जरी आली तरी तो चेरीचा मोहर गळून पडत होता. So dear students, these lines are showing the beauty and delicacy of cherry blossom. Here we had a rhyming pair also. For example, small fall. Now let's learn about the next lines with the help of next slide. I lay on the grass at ease, looking up through leaves at the blue, blind sky, at the finches as they flew and fleeted through the dappled grain. So here the word dapple, it means having dark or light patches. So the poet returned now to the present after thinking about the past and after thinking about and sharing the story of that cherry tree. Now poet was lying under that cherry tree on that green grass and he was looking up at the evening sky through the branches and leaves of that cherry tree. की कवी आता वर्तमान काळाचा उल्लेख करतो. सध्या तो त्या चेरीच्या झाडाखाली गवतावर पहुडला होता आणि तेथूनच चेरीच्या फांद्या आणि त्याच्या पानांमधून संध्याकाळच्या आकाशाकडे तो पाहत होता. At that time, the poet watched the finches, it means those small birds that eat seeds for this see the image in front of you. So you can hear you can see those finches birds and these finches were flying lightly and fastly through the green leaves of that cherry tree. की कवी ज्यावेळेस त्या चेरीच्या फांद्यांमधून व पानांमधून संध्याकाळच्या आकाशाकडे पाहत होता त्याच दरम्यान काही फिंचेस पक्षी देखील त्याला तिथे उडताना पाहायला मिळतात. सो इन दिस वे द पोएट वॉज एन्जॉईंग नॅचरल ब्युटी विथ द हेल्प ऑफ चेरी ट्री. नेक्स्ट लाइन्स. While bees in an ecstasy drank of nectar from each bloom, and the sun sank swiftly, and the stars turned in the sky. So here the word ecstasy, it means feeling of great happiness, and nectar, it means the sweet liquid produced by flowers, or you can call it as a honey also, flowers honey. So it means as the sun was setting quickly and the sky was darkening, the stars started to appear in the sky. Before that, the bees they hovered over the sweet cherry flowers for the nectar. की मधमाशांनी अतिशय आनंदाने त्या सुंदर व मधुर अशा चेरीच्या फुलांमधील गोड दव म्हणजेच तो मध प्राशन करायला सुरुवात केली होती. आणि त्यानंतर सूर्यास्तामुळे आता आकाशामध्ये तारे दिसायला सुरुवात झाली होती. सो इन दिस वे द पोएट वॉज एक्सपिरियन्सिंग द डिफरंट ॲक्शन्स ऑफ बीज अँड एन्जॉईंग द ब्युटिफुल साईट ऑफ स्टार्स इन द स्काय. की अशा प्रकारे कविता मधमाशांच्या कृतीचा अनुभव घेत होता आणि तसेच तो आकाशातील ताऱ्यांचे सौंदर्यही अनुभवत होता. So students, here you can imagine how the bees were collecting nectar from that cherry flowers. Now students, let's move towards the end of the poem. And moon moths and singing crickets and I, yes I, praise night and stars and tree, that small, the cherry grown by me, composed by Ruskin Pond. The meaning of these lines is that as per the sunset, the stars started to turn in the sky. At that time, moon moths appeared and flew in the sky. There was a noise of crickets also. Actually, the poet said that these moon moths or singing crickets and he, all of them, they praised night and stars and tree also. And finally, the poet's heart was happy and he was joyfully thinking of his own cherry tree planted by him before many years. आणि अशा प्रकारे त्या रम्य रात्रीच्या वातावरणामध्ये आणि त्या चेरीच्या झाडाच्या सानिध्यामध्ये कवीला मूनमॉथ्स आणि क्रिकेट्स म्हणजेच रातकिड्यांचा देखील आवाज ऐकायला येत होता आणि कवीच्या मते ते रातकिडे गाणे गाऊन त्या संपूर्ण वातावरणाचा आनंद घेत होते. अँड फायनली द पोएट वॉज फिलिंग सो हॅपी अँड जॉयफुल. आणि स्वतःचे असे चेरीचे झाड पाहून कवीला अतिशय आनंद झाला होता. So students, in this way, our poem ends with the praise for cherry tree. The poet is so happy, excited, joyful, and does not repent his action of planting seed. He was really satisfied by having a cherry tree in his garden. Students, it's a fine example of a poem that tells a simple story in इझी वर्स मॅनर. आणि अशा प्रकारे आपली ही कविता डिस्कस करून संपलेली आहे. आय थिंक नाऊ द पोएम इज क्लिअर टू यू. यू विल अंडरस्टँड इट थरली. सो स्टुडंट्स, नाऊ लेट्स फोकस ऑन सम इम्पॉर्टंट फिगर्स ऑफ स्पीच used in the second half of this poem. The first important figure of speech is called climax. So in this figure of speech, the successive words, phrases, sentences, they are arranged in ascending order of importance. की या फिगर ऑफ स्पीचमध्ये जे काही वर्ड्स आहेत किंवा ज्या काही संकल्पना आहेत त्या त्यांच्या चढत्या क्रमाने लावलेल्या असतात किंवा चढत्या क्रमाने त्या लाईन्समध्ये येतात. फॉर एक्झाम्पल, लुक ॲट दिस एक्झाम्पल. पिंक फ्रजाइल क्विक टू फॉल. नोटिस द अरेंजमेंट ऑफ वर्ड्स इन द अबव लाईन. अँड ॲक्च्युली दिस लाईन इज डिस्क्रायबिंग द डेलिकसी ऑफ cherry flowers. So here the cherry blossoms, pink color shows its lightness. Then the word fragile describes its delicacy or weakness, and quick to fall indicates its breaking from branch. And so orders or words are arranged in ascending order of their importance, and because of all these things, this figure of speech is called as climax. The next one is antithesis. All of you are already familiar with antithesis. So what happened in antithesis? Opposite words or ideas, they are placed in the same line or stanza. For example, came back thinner, rather poor, but richer by a cherry tree at my door. So here the word poor and rich, they are opposite words with each other. And so these lines are an example of antithesis. And next figure of speech is personification. So what happened in personification? Non-living things, they are considered as human beings, and they had been given some human qualities. Look at this example. Blue blind sky, singing crickets. So actually sky, this concept is non-living, but it had been given the human quality of blindness. की स्काय ही एक निर्जीव गोष्ट आहे आणि त्या निर्जीव गोष्टीला कवीने इथे सजीवाची उपमा दिलेली आहे, बिकमिंग ब्लाइंड. ओके, सो इन दिस वे स्टुडंट्स, वी डिस्कस्ड अबाउट द पोएम cherry tree. So keep in mind whatever we discussed in this video also. Then quickly focus on poetic creativity also. Poetic creativity means what? You have to create your own lines. You have to be a poet. या ॲक्टिव्हिटीमध्ये तुम्हाला स्वतःच्या तुमच्या कवितेच्या काही ओळी तयार करायच्या असतात आणि याच ॲक्टिव्हिटीला पोएटिक क्रिएटिव्हिटी असं म्हणतात. फॉर एक्झाम्पल, यू हॅव टू कंपोज 8 to 10 लाईन्स अँड यू हॅव टू नॅरेट द इन्सिडेंट इन युअर लाईफ विदाउट युझिंग एनी rhyming pattern. For example, you can write your answer like this. I decided to plant a tree, but was not easy for me. I didn't have a place to plant because I was living in a flat without any courtyard, and so I bought plastic trees. Need nothing to provide water or soiling. Didn't have any life and not growing. So in this way you can describe one incident or your feelings regarding planting trees in your houses. Thank you, my dear students. Keep watching, keep enjoying, and keep your learning also.